Well, why go solo? It's an important question to ask. Aside from the fact that sometimes you need just a bass trombone or just a trumpet, you may want to use the solo instruments even when you're composing a brass section. It's the only way that you'll have complete control over specifically what instrument is playing what. If you're arranging for trombone, saxophone, trumpet, you can sit down and play in the appropriate parts for each instrument. They're sampled and there's no pitch stretching here, so you have access to the entire range of notes that that instrument can physically play. It's highlighted here in the blue area. You'll notice I'm not playing anything below that or above it, but as long as I'm in the middle, I'm in pretty much a safe zone for that instrument. When you're composing, you can still switch between articulations because each of those instruments can articulate differently, but you'll notice that anything having to do with the voicing and smart splitting is gone. It's not available in the solo mode, but you can still use key switches to switch between the various ways of playing these instruments. Now, something else that you'll want to consider is how you're playing them when you're scoring them. Because Kontakt is a multi-timbral instrument, you can load up lots of instruments in one spot. Your computer may or may not be able to handle that well, depending on your operating system, whether you're running 32 or 64-bit, what type of computer you have, what type of program you're having. They all handle these instruments and their resources differently. There are many sequencers that will put each one of these tracks, if you have a multi-processor instrument, on a separate processor. So as long as you've got all of these going, the different instruments on separate tracks, you're cool. It will spread it out amongst your multi-processor machine. If you have a 4-core instrument, it won't put all 4 of them on the same core. It'll do that automatically. Again, this is all depending on what sequencer you're using and what version and what operating system you have. You'll want to check your compatibility there. Now, for convenience, if you are able to and your machine can handle it, you can add all of these instruments into one Kontakt session like so. So now I have my trumpet there and I've got my saxophone there, and I can control the MIDI channel they respond to right there. All of these, if you're running certain sequencers and certain bit depths, 32 versus 64-bit operating systems, all of those will run on the same core of the same processor on occasion. So that is going to be something you're really going to have to watch out for. When you're using these separate instruments, how are you spreading your resources out amongst your computers? Now, in a typical setup for Logic or for GarageBand or most basic normal sequencers, you can just set up an instrument track for each one of these and start scoring away. If I play on this track, it'll be just the bass trombone. And the minute I go to this track, the alto sax, the flugel, and then the trumpet. Each one of these tracks has its own instance, and each one of those instances has a single instrument. But we can also, with many different sequencers, we can also create a multi-timbral instrument that has MIDI tracks that route to that single instrument. And each of these would be a different channel playing through the same single instance of Kontakt. Let's take a look at what that looks like.